welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. NumberNine.
And this is The Fool.
Your 96 best place to listen to...
For 10 years.
Yes, for our 10th season of our mostly up-to-date...
And unqualified. And unrequested.
Ramblings of the various issues in the world of sport.
Or something like that.
Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Yeah.
We are into 2024. As of recording, it's the 5th of January, so the first Friday of the year.
Yeah, I know. It's still a bit crazy to think about, really, that we're in 2024, but...
Yeah, almost to the mid-2020s, and I feel like just yesterday I was hearing about... I was at, in Bangladesh at a New Year's party to welcome the 2020s, and we were trying to figure out what sort of, speakeasy music and swing music we'd be listening to and all that. We welcomed the 2020s with a party, and yeah. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, yeah. New Year's Eve 2019, New Year's Day 2020, it was a much more naive time.
It was. I remember when we thought the biggest disaster of the year was going to be, we were questioning whether it was going to be the bushfires in Australia or the murder hornets.
Yeah. Just remember back when
those were the big hornets. Those were the big problems back at the time, those days. But yeah, let's go to our Bread and Circuses podcast. We're going to talk about the sporting year 2023. We've had a bunch of highlights, but let's go to personal favorites. Your favorite moment of 2023, sports-wise?
Sports-wise, I think I'm just going to go with, it's personal, but the FIFA Women's World Cup here in New Zealand, Australia. Went to a few of the games. It was, I think, watched just about as much as I possibly could. But definitely sporting highlight was being in the crowd and watching Hannah Wilkinson score the New Zealand's opening goal in that opening fixture.
Yeah.
It was just amazing. It was great to be there. Amazing. Really, that's the only word for it.
And obviously the White Ferns, first ever time that a New Zealand football team has won at a World Cup, so incredible. That was my highlight.
Yeah.
It was an incredibly nervous game, but we got through. Obviously, it's a bit disappointing they couldn't make it past the first round.
No,
but
it's just how that went, I think. It's sort of one of those things, you do a good performance and the next game out, it just, against the Philippines, they just weren't there. Maybe they're mentally thinking the next game or whatever. They just couldn't live up to that previous performance, which was sad.
And it wasn't... it was also a really great performance by the Filipino team. It was their debut in the World Cup as well, so it's a great moment for them. So you can't hold that against them. That was a great performance.
Yeah.
It was a great match all round, to be fair, and we had a great tournament. And what a final!
Yeah,
we had.
Oh, it was amazing, the final. The whole tournament was just full of great bits. Watched it with my kids. They were very invested in the entire thing. We're there supporting the football ferns through their group phases. Then we're on the Japan bandwagon because they were going great. And then we're on the Spain bandwagon, and that one we rode to the end. But,
yeah. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right bandwagon. I understand. Definitely relatable.
Yeah, it's just the progression is as the teams get knocked out. You got to then have a new one to follow along. So.
Of course. Far be it from me to complain about people joining bandwagons on sports teams. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. That was definitely highlights for me. What's your low light?
I hadn't really put a lot of thought into low lights.
I think I have a theme in my head, but I'm going to let you speak first.
Alright. I guess the low light, which didn't turn out being a problematic one, was just right at the beginning of the year, Kane Williamson, nearest the beginning, Kane Williamson in the IPL, ruining his knee, and just the thought of,
Yep.
that's it, that's the World Cup for New Zealand. We're not even, going to struggle without,
Yep.
going to really struggle without Williamson. I mean, we can have a good team and all the rest, but thinking of going to India, World Cup, facing, some red hot teams without Williamson, it's over, it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out wellish in the end. We still lost a semi-final, but Williamson was there and put it in.
And he played some clutch innings.
So yeah, it really
he's
shows.
Still the king as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, 100%. It just shows his dedication and his desire to get back. That he clearly just was like, this is the training plan, this is the recovery plan. We're sticking to it 100% because there's no other way. Which is just very Kane Williamson. But yeah, just that moment of watching that game and seeing that happen and just being like, oh, that's it, we're done. Just that feeling.
Yeah. I think my low light, and it's going to be a theme because it's happened in multiple sports and it's just happened in crucial moments. Umpiring, reffing, officiating in really, really important games. I mean, the World Cup final, especially because it had been such an amazing tournament leading up to it. There was some reffing controversies leading up to that final, but there's nothing to make us think it was going to be that sort of spectacle. Like, as I mentioned, I'm just a casual rugby fan. I don't follow it all the time. I take a look at it when the Tri Nations are on. I don't really follow a Super Rugby team either. Like, sure, I'm a Blues fan, but that's about it. Like, I don't like actively follow it. And given how seamless rugby league seemed to be, I was shocked at how bad rugby was. Because I hadn't watched, I'm a casual rugby league fan as well, and there's times when rugby league had really bad problems with reffing, and they seem to have ironed out a lot of problems. And like on the last, as if to kick it into my head, the very last day of the year, technically it was on the 1st of Jan for us, but it was still on the 31st in America. In the NFL, the Detroit Lions did this amazing play where they actually fooled the Dallas Cowboys into thinking a certain player was going to be eligible. And then, because in NFL, for our fans, mostly who don't follow North American sports that much, if you're a member of the O-line, one of the front people protecting the quarterback, you have to declare to the referee before the snap that you're eligible to receive. You're gonna sit in, and he's gonna go tell the other team, number this person is gonna be eligible. And the player declared, and we have cameras showing that he's there declaring. Nobody else is declaring, and he went and declared another player. And when the Lions scored a touchdown, he called them back and made them replay.
Oh.
And then this is the worst thing about it, because NFL coaches before games showed the referees all the trick plays they have and how it's going to run. They actually put a board and they show it, like, this is going to go, number that is going to go. And so the fact that because the referee after the game said that they didn't declare, and then when they showed it was declared, he goes, that wasn't a play told to me. And the coach obviously going, hey, no, I totally did. And it's not believable that a coach wouldn't do it, because that's basically procedure in the NFL.
Right,
so there's it's bad enough you make a call. At least in the Rugby World Cup, I think there was an admission of bad reffing by people, and there's some admission of we need to look at this better.
Yeah.
Whereas, like in the NFL, they're just like, nope, we did nothing wrong, and it's BS because everybody knows that you stuffed up.
Yeah, I understand where you're going with that one. That it's and at least rugby sort of does that, but it's not like you believe the IRB that they're going to really put in thought into it.
But even a mea culpa is the bare minimum, right? Yeah. Like, the referee, to his credit, in the game said that, oh, that was a bad call, my bad, to the All Blacks when he made a call, and I can respect that from a referee. We don't expect them to be robots; they're humans. They make mistakes, and he did it in the moment. I don't know if I would have done that in the moment myself, so I can, like I said, I can respect that what he had done, but then after the incident the game seemed to take a weird turn, because it was just like there's so much like there's just this weird thing where it's difficult for a casual fan in rugby to tell what's happening, because you can't tell what's being overruled. Like, there's lots wrong with VAR, and you and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
We can't say that there is any confusion around who makes the final call in a soccer football game.
Yeah. Exactly. Like, it's fairly clear there, and I think that's the biggest problem with rugby union, because rugby league's done that as well now. That was the criticism for them as well, which makes the whole rugby union thing hurt that much more. That league went through this whole issue of but the bunker, the video refs making the calls, and it should be no, they've sorted out the procedure and everything, so that's very clear about how everything works, and that the video ref's just there to support the ref and be like, hey, I think this needs re-examining or whatever, or the ref calls and says, hey, I think something happened here, I'm not sure, this is what I thought happened, but can you check it for me and just see if I'm right or not? I'm not sure myself, which is a very good way of doing it, because that's very much the ref going, you're saying we accept the refs are human, that's what they are.
Exactly.
But part of that is being able to go, I don't know what happened here. Like, I think this is what happened, but I'm not very sure. It all happened a bit fast. I was in slightly the wrong place, and especially in rugby, especially rugby union, rugby league as well. But there's people's bodies all over the place. Like in union more so, because you have rucks and mauls and everywhere, and you actually I can't see what's happening. It's like 16 people could be, if it's a scrum being thing, push over, try on a scrum, that's a lot of people just in or around your vision. Like, let's go to the video ref, that's what he's there for.
And referees and players in rugby union have a good relationship.
Yeah.
So a referee owning up or going like, this is the best as I saw it, so I have to call it that way. Players in rugby union go, okay.
Yeah.
Like, if that is, I respectfully disagree, but let's move on. Like, that is how rugby union players deal with referees. You have an adult conversation, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not the job of the players, like, it's not my job to officiate the game. I can say I disagree, but at the end of the day, the officials make the call, Exactly. And, the officials go, reckon they're disappointed, but I've made my explanation, and that's fine, I
think that's the bit that works as well, like, having an explanation. This is what I saw, this is how I interpreted the rules, this thing. As long as that becomes the consistent ruling, then the players are pretty like, that's how you see it, that's how you're ruling it, that's fine. I think there can be a little bit upsetness if that then doesn't apply consistently throughout the game. And I think one thing rugby union refs generally do very well is apply their interpretation of the rule consistently throughout the game. And I think, like, I've seen a few NFL ones as well where that sort of comes up, and I think that's the problem with NFL, is that they group around themselves too much when, like, we're right, that then they stop being consistent and they just we're always right. So then you get problems where the rule just becomes immaterial about what was happening because the ref just needs to be right, as opposed to rugby union where they are a bit more like, look, it's a little hazy, this is what I thought happened, so that's why I'm ruling it. So if I'm wrong, hey, I'm wrong. Sure. But that's the ruling right now. So you say that the whole refs are human. It helps when they try and act like they're human as well, which is, we may have made a mistake. It is what it is. We're playing on with that. That ruling has been made. It's in the past. Let it go.
Yeah.
We moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue here. So that would be my low light. Look, we've had a long podcast about officiating already, so let's not go further. I think those are fair enough. But I've made a list of really what I think might be pivotal and important moments in the world of sport that's happened this year, and then I suddenly remembered another one, and I put 11. So we have a top 11. So obviously the Olympics are this year, 2024, in Paris.
Yeah.
Last year they have announced new sports that are going to be in the Olympics in LA in 2028. The one of them being cricket. There's going to be squash, flag football, and lacrosse.
Ooh.
I think lots of American sports shows very excited about flag football and lacrosse. They think that's like two new medal, at least a medal for the Team USA and in lacrosse, and they definitely expect to win flag football, though I do think the Canadians will give them a run for their money. Squash, this is where I go, can Dame Susie come out of retirement?
Hey, we're
actually still got it.
You still got it. We've actually got good squash players at the moment.
Yes.
Who's it?
But we want to maximize our chances, right?
Yeah.
And as for cricket, we all know it'll probably not be India, unfortunately, for them, as their duck in major tournaments continue.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have broken it by then. Go back to your sky blue uniforms, lads. Go. That's what I reckon's going to happen. But it's great to see the Olympics actually do a bunch of new sports and get some excitement back in. I am quietly excited about the Olympics this year. It's not like when I was younger, where I think the Olympics were really a big deal. Like we would be counting down from nowish almost.
Yeah.
To it happening.
Yeah. Well, I guess I would imagine it might start. I mean, school's still like we're at the beginning of the year, so we don't have schools in yet. So, like once school's back in, we've got this is in when July. Sorry, end of July. So I mean, there's going to be probably two full terms and a bit of school time, and at least a whole chunk of the second term probably will have some amount dedicated over to it because it's something that's happening. Yeah. But I think you are right. Like it doesn't feel like it's as central as it was in the past. Like your whole term would basically just be like Olympics, this.
It's just that ever since Usain Bolt retired, we're just not excited about the Olympics anymore. Let's be honest here.
It is sort of the way
we were all counting down to the 100 meters finals to see what Usain was going to do.
Yeah. That's actually very true.
I mean, sure, Michael Phelps as well back in the day, and you've got great dominant athletes in other sports, Simone Biles in gymnastics. All of that is true, but Usain Bolt is Usain Bolt. To me, always, forever the greatest Olympian that I've ever seen.
No, he was.
I mean, just come on. When he was slowing down at the end to smile at the cameras and still broke the world record.
I know, that's just that memory is just insane to think about.
Like none of us will ever forget it.
No. I still laugh just thinking about it. It's just like could have just broken it more. He's like, no, I don't need to. Showboat.
Yeah, I mean, it was more important to showboat than to break it better, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm breaking it anyway.
Your record's obviously going to be broken at some point. Yeah, records are meant to be broken, so... But, nobody's going to forget the showboating.
Exactly.
So that was like one of my first highlights. Second highlight, purely because I think this guy is Athlete of the Year. Djokovic, once again, 3 majors.
Yeah.
Obviously, he had like an epic Wimbledon final against Carlos. Couldn't win. Unfortunately, couldn't win to get the calendar Grand Slam. But 2024, he has a rare opportunity to win a Golden Slam. Only other player to have done that is Steffi Graf in 1988, where she won all 4 Grand Slams and an Olympic gold medal.
All right.
In the same year.
Yeah.
The only the only tennis player to have done that. So if Djokovic or Nadal or Carlos, one of them, anyone can win a Grand Slam. It's just hard to see anyone beat Djokovic right now.
Yes.
Um,
it would be crazy for him to do it as well. Like, it's just. Yeah.
He's what a career. He's basically equaled Margaret Court's record for most number of Grand Slams. I can't imagine that he's not going to do it. Clearly he will. And, deservedly, because he played in such a strong era of men's tennis, so many good players, and possibly two other greatest players of all time played against him.
Yeah.
And he, outlasted them and got... and managed to beat them when they were still at their peak, both of them.
I know, that was, I remember people complaining about that era of tennis, where it's like, oh, it just doesn't matter, it's going to be one of the top three that win everything and nobody else does. It's like, yeah, that's awesome, because there's three of them that are battling it out at the peak of their powers, just like...
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, maybe Federer was maybe just at the end of the peak, but then Federer continued on. He still had plenty in the tank, he'd just been...
And he still kept winning Grand Slams. And look, we don't necessarily just like Roger Federer because he won a lot. Like, Roger Federer brought us joy when we watched him on the tennis court, and he never failed to bring us joy. Like, he would just always, he loved playing tennis. He loved making people go, "Wow, what a shot!" That's what he lived for, and we could tell.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was I always loved watching Roger Federer. Probably the best tennis was.
Probably maybe
we're at their peaks, so yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe Roger Federer is my favorite athlete to watch of all time. Like, if I'm watching him at his peak.
Yeah.
I can't remember being more mesmerized watching a single athlete. But I love all three of the big three: Nadal, Federer, Djokovic. Just something about a sportsman who just sort of thrives on sheer willpower, like Novak Djokovic.
Yeah.
Like, I just love those sort of players, those sort of sportsmen as well.
Yeah. I can. Exactly.
And that 2019 Wimbledon final that was going on at the same time as the Cricket World Cup final between England and the Black Caps.
Yeah.
Like, that was one of my saddest sporting days, but I was enthralled. I was literally watching tennis on my phone while watching cricket on the TV, because I couldn't keep my eye off either match. They were both incredible.
Yeah. That was just incredible times.
Yeah. But Novak Djokovic deserves all the flowers. And I look forward to seeing what he's going to do in 2024.
Yeah, exactly. As you say, history may beckon. And if one of them is going to do it, you'd be putting your money on Djokovic.
Yep. Well, I'm not betting against him.
No. Exactly.
And now, except we kind of already alluded to this, the Women's World Cup, full of highlights, full of great moments. Great performances. We've done a Women's World Cup podcast and gone through it, but it was just the sheer... look, it's always a special time when there's a World Cup in New Zealand and you're here. I can't remember... And the country just changes and everybody's into it, and it's the mood is so good.
Yeah.
Everyone I know was suddenly an expert in women's football, which I gotta love.
I did like that as well, because as it led up to it did seem a little bit of a slow burn, and it was a bit worried. I know there was a bit of worry around that. New Zealanders aren't really getting into it. But I think that's a little bit of how we are sometimes. Everybody was like, "Yeah, it's going to be here. It's going to be awesome," but sort of just waiting for it to come. And once it came, that opening game was crazy. It was awesome. And then from there on, it just kicked up another notch and just became this magical time, really. You say everybody was an expert in women's football, no matter how little they may have watched beforehand. But it was just an amazing time. And as I say, my kids, they just went head over heels for it. They had posters up. They were in
Hey,
depth
you know how
on
much I
multiple
respect your
players.
kids' knowledge on football.
Oh, yeah,
Both of them.
both of them. Like they had very expert opinions on every match and every player, and like they just watched as much as they could, which was awesome. Their analytics afterwards is just on point. It was just awesome.
Great, great. So you're saying our podcast is in good hands when we retire?
Yeah, definitely.
Keeping up with our World Cup theme, the next one was the Rugby World Cup. We've also already alluded to this. Obviously, the finals was a low light, but so many great moments. Portugal winning their first game, the Fijian team playing incredibly well.
Yeah.
A low point for the Wallabies not making it through the first round, but we did predict that.
Yeah, we did. We predicted, I think we predicted England not making it either, but they proved us wrong. But hey,
they proved us wrong. But that quarterfinal between France and South Africa, what a game!
What a game! Well, I mean, there was two, right? There was France, South Africa, and New Zealand, Ireland. That were just amazing quarterfinals. They both of them probably should have been finals almost, maybe at least semi-finals, given the quality of them and the excitement. You say South Africa coming back and winning by 1 point, basically 3 knockout games in a row. It's just crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just their games were amazing, and as were the New Zealand games. But yeah, I mean, it was an amazing tournament. It really showed where rugby's at, both in a positive frame and a negative frame. As we alluded to in the very lengthy Putting Low Lights. But from a positive point, I thought the standard of play was excellent. You say Portugal winning a game. Like, I think most of the so-called minnows actually played reasonably well, and showed that things aren't too far off.
Yes. And how short-sighted the Northern Hemisphere teams were for not doing the IRB plan of a 10-team league.
Yeah, I see they've agreed to it now, so they got there eventually.
Yes.
Or maybe a slightly modified version, but still. We'll get it, so that's all fine.
We'll get it. That's pretty much. And finally, we had 3 cricket World Cups this year, or World Cup finals. The T20 World Cup won by Australia. No surprises there. The ladies in green and gold have been dominant for a long time. The Test World Championship won by Australia against India in a game that I would call was an upset, because India were favourites, and once again India were the best team in the league stage of our World Test Championships. And of course, the ultimate lowlight for the Indian cricket team, losing the final to Australia after being unbeaten in the ODI World Cup. I will point out my highlight performance for the year has to be Glenn Maxwell's match against Afghanistan.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't stop thinking about it. It's basically, watching it live is incredible to think about. Like, we were just like, is this really, I was just like, is this really happening? It is really happening. How is this happening? It's got to stop. And it didn't. And he won. Like, and he hit a 6 to win. Like, so appropriate. It's probably the greatest one-day international innings ever played.
I know.
At least it belongs in the pantheon of greatest international innings. I think there's people say there were there was the great 189 by Viv Richards against England when the West Indies were 60 for 8 and he took them to 320. But obviously that was batting first. Kapil Dev's 176 against Zimbabwe when they were 60 for 6. When he came in to bat, Tunbridge Wells, which unfortunately there is no footage of that knock because he was because they just didn't film it, because back then they played multiple games at the same time at World Cup. That was just a thing that happened sometimes. And obviously now this belongs right up there. It's one of those great international knocks. If you find it difficult to separate those three, can't blame you, mate. No. They're all incredible.
They are all incredible, yes. And yeah, it's just still mind-boggling to think about at all.
Yes.
You say, just the fact that basically on one leg, just the shambles that they were at, and just going, meh, I can still win this, and then doing it.
Yeah. And now
Sorry, before we continue on, the other thing also, I think Australia have an opportunity this year, right, with the T20 World Cup, the 20th in the last 2 years, that if they win that, they'll be holding basically all the...
They will have the Triple Crown, all three formats world champions.
Yeah.
I know it's not officially called the Triple Crown, but I'm calling it the Triple Crown, because what else are you going to call it? Sure, if they also win the Champions Trophy this year, I think that's going to be held. They'll be holding the Grand Slam.
The Grand Slam. And when was the Women's World Cup ODI? That was... Are they holders of that?
That was in New Zealand last year.
I can't remember. Did they win that one, or was that one of the others?
I believe they won that one as well.
So they got they'll have just about everything. They win the Champions Trophy and
there's not
the T20 one. There won't be a cricket World Cup or cricket ICC trophy that they don't have.
That doesn't belong to Australia.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right, come on. Somebody has to make sure they don't win the World Cup this year in West Indies, and though I do believe there might be another T20 World Cup for the women, Nick, this year. I'm not sure. There's just so many T20 World Cups.
I don't know either.
Now, moving on from the cricket, despite Australia winning lots of stuff, definitely enjoyed it. Lots of great performances from Black Caps and other teams. Something that I think is really, really interesting happening in American sport, like we have seen the fissures, like I mentioned it in our last year or the year before's year in review, where the Supreme Court basically told college football, you can't tell us that the reason why you shouldn't be allowed to pay people is you're the only business that's not allowed to pay people. And that's just, that's not a valid excuse. I think I quoted Justice Brett Kavanaugh's speech when he was revealing their ruling ad verbatim. The college sports landscape has changed dramatically. So before the NIL, which is names, image, and likeness, rules came in, post NIL era, everything's changed. There was basically 5 conferences in college football that were considered the big Power 5 conferences. All you really need to know here is there were 4 conferences that thought they were good, and there was the SEC who were always good, and and had the best schools. Yeah. There's the SEC, which is the Southeastern Conference. They have teams you've probably heard of when you're thinking about college football or college basketball, like Alabama, Louisiana, Louisville, Georgia, all these Clemson, all these great teams. And then they're obviously you've probably heard of the great West Coast teams like UCLA or USC. They played in a conference called the Pac-12, which is technically still the winningest conference. And they had the most, and they have been around the longest. There was the Big Ten, and there was the ACC, the Atlantic Conference, and the Big 12, which was basically Basically, the Big Ten is like an East Coast Northwestern conference, and the Big 12 is like a Southwest Middle America flyover country conference. So basically, it kind of worked because we had an South Atlantic conference, a North Atlantic Midwest conference. We had a Southeast area conference. We had one for places like Texas and all these other small parts, small town areas of America, which you literally fly over, and you've had the Pacific Coast. Yeah. It kind of worked out. That all changed. The beginning of this year, UCLA and USC, arguably two of the biggest brands in the they are the biggest brands in the Pac-12 and probably the two biggest brands in college sport after Notre Dame, made a deal with the Big Ten to start playing for them in 2024, and that's when basically everybody went after the Pac-12's carcass and started taking teams off them. So the 2020 this year is going to be 2023 is literally the last year that the Pac-12 is going to probably exist. They are either going to merge with a smaller conference in its current form. That is, they're either going to merge with a smaller conference because USC and UCLA left, and the next two biggest teams, which is Oregon and Washington State, also left. So they only had like 8 teams, and 4 of them left. And the 2 other California teams were like, okay, we're going to join the Atlantic Conference, all the way on the others, because that makes sense, right? You're on the Pacific Coast, you're going to join the Atlantic Conference. That's what they did.
That makes sense.
And this has basically changed everything about the college structure. Like, pretty much everybody's predicting they're going to end up with a Super League where they'll just have one mega conference, and there'll probably be some sort of relegation promotion, which I'm like, really? You're going to end up with something better in the end, but there's obviously teething issues and whatnot happening now. As things change and everybody is out for blood, and there's heaps of money to be made, and, you actually have to pay, or at least your sponsors have to pay athletes now. So all the best athletes are going to go to the colleges where they can get the most exposure to start earning as much money as possible. Because there are obviously going to be athletes in the world who are going to peak between the ages of 18 and 22 and kind of peter out after that. We're all familiar with athletes like that. They develop early, they're very physical, and then that physicality helps them, and unless they learn to adapt their game and learn new skills, all that stuff, they kind of peter out after, everybody else catches up to them, and they're also big. And there's big people who have skills that you're going up against. They're not just big, or not just fast, or not just strong.
Sort of thing that happens, right? All that have a big advantage young, so that they can lean on that crutch, as they eventually everybody else, that doesn't matter as much anymore. They stop being the big fish in the little pond, and finally the pond gets big enough, and that's sort of where it is.
But if you can make a couple of $1 million in that time, why not?
Well, exactly.
Why should a college make all that money off your back and you earn nothing out of it?
Oh, 100% I'm behind that. Like, clearly there needs to be some compensation paid to the college athletes, because the people were making a lot of money off them, and it wasn't the athletes themselves, which just feels wrong.
So, but there's more to come. It's going to have a huge impact. Like, the whole college sports structure is radically changing in America, because the best basketball is already looking at itself going, why are the best athletes not coming from the United States? They're not coming through our college system. They're just a lot of them are just coming from pro leagues in Europe. And part of that is because, you have young players like Luka Doncic or Wemby, who was #1 overall pick this year, to Victor Wembanyama, who, they're playing against grown men since the age of 16. So, by the time they're 21, they're not afraid of you, and they know what it's like to, pay for their rent and, be a professional athlete.
Exactly.
And they've got the big, they have game experience that is like, where you're playing for your rent money. Like, you don't get this. You don't know what you're going to do for a living.
Yeah.
Versus, like, you're going to lose a college game. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, sure, it's a big deal. I'm not saying it isn't, but it's not life or death like it is when you're a pro athlete.
Yeah, exactly. Like, they're still going to have everything going on for them. They've still got their scholarship. That, they may not get the after college stuff, but not all of them get that anyway. So, that was always going to be a hard thing. So different to when Europe, they're left to be pro sports people. That's what they're doing. This is what's paying the bills if they can't succeed.
This is what gets to me, because the American system is you go to college and you use college as your feeder system for professional sports, and in Europe you use academies.
Yeah,
it's linked to a club. You're at the club since you're like 8 years old. Like, I'm just using, like, say, Ryan Giggs as an example. He's been a Manchester United player. He started at the City Academy when he was 8 years old. 10, he joined Manchester United's academy, and he's been there. He was there till at Manchester United till he was 41, 42. He's had all his upbringing and learning how to. But the thing is, the flip side of that is everybody goes, but they're there to get an education. But as it turns out, something like 80% of college athletes who come in, because you're not allowed to get a full scholarship by the rules,
right,
through sports. So they still have to pay for half their education. And a lot of people who don't pan out don't end up getting it. So something like only, I think, 30% of college athletes, people on this college scholarship, were graduating university. Right. Whereas people going to academies who were at the academy at the age of 16, almost all of them went to university in Europe.
All right.
So what's going on here? They end up with a uni degree if they don't end up becoming a football player or a basketball player.
Yeah.
You're not going, let's just say basketball, football is their trade. Trade didn't work out for them. They still go to uni because, usually these academies pay to get them to the best schools, give them really good educations as well. To be like, this is your fallback.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And also they're like, you need to know this stuff to be a professional as well, by the way. Like, you can't exist in isolation.
No, you need to know some of the stuff. That's why most of them do sports science or physiotherapy or something like that, because then it's like you're actually learning.
Or communications if they want to be a media person. Like, there's many good degrees you can get into, and you can start studying for them while you're at the academy. So this is the thing. The university, the college system isn't meant to be an academy, isn't meant to be a sports factory. So it's fine that they don't necessarily produce athletes as well as an academy, because that's meant to be their only thing. But also, they don't produce as many university students as the academy does, which is like
what they're meant to be doing.
Which is what they're meant to be doing, which is the bad part.
Yeah.
Because so there's a lot broken. I'm glad that the MLS, pretty much every team has now got their own academy. They're no longer really relying on the college system. College is literally for people who missed out on getting... The college draft thing is literally there for people who missed out on getting into an academy when they were like,
Yeah.
And that's fair, because unlike in Europe, even in the MLS, this is the bad thing. They make people pay to join their academies. What the heck is that all about?
That is weird. I suppose
what are you doing? The amount of money you will make out of even one really good player will more than make up for the 50 to 60 people that go through your academy if even none of them end up becoming a pro.
Yeah. Which is...
Even if you're giving them the best high school education so they can get to the best colleges.
And this has to be true, because that's exactly the model all of Europe runs on. And none of them... they're just like, no, we'll do some scouting. If you look promising, we'll invite you. They invite people from halfway around the world, and they move their entire family over.
No longer allowed to do that.
I suppose no, but I mean, they still check out people
in your catchment area, and everyone, and then they will scout people who they think are really, really good around the world, and wait till they're 18 and bring them to like their youth team or second team. But this is the model in Europe. I think it produces like not that this system doesn't have problems as well for the athletes. Like there is there's definitely lots of bad outcomes for people who don't make it through the system. We're not even going to put aside the people who do end up becoming athletes having bad outcomes, because that's sports. That happens.
So that is the sports funnel, right? There's a wide and a wide catchment at the top, and lots of young people, and that's the sort of sad thing is, right? Young people get put into that funnel, but only a few come out the bottom, and of those few that come out the bottom, only a few of those go on to be actually successful at their career. And there's lots of reasons why people fall out either side at any level, and the academies may not care too much about why that reason is. They're just feeding people in at the top so that the right number come out at the bottom that are going to bring them the money for it. But to then with have a system where you're making people pay for that as well seems a bit crazy.
Yeah, and even with the best of intentions, I don't think any academy really takes care of the people who they have to let go at the age, like after the age of like 15, 16. Well, after they have to leave the academy, because that's when it's really tough, because you're there till you're 16 and you're still good enough. There's a good chance you're going to think you're going to make it.
Yeah. And you made it all the way through there. Yeah.
Like 14, if you're not there when you're 13, 14, it's disappointing, but at some point you'll be like, okay, I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
Like, I got there. I know that I wasn't good enough. I'm not dying wondering about that.
Yeah. Got close, but it just didn't pan out for whatever the reasons are. Like,
whatever reason.
Yeah.
And like, you're still young enough that that's something that you can learn to get over for yourself. But that if you're there at your 16, your parents probably think you're going to make it. You think you're going to make it. Your family, your friends think you're going to make
it. Yeah, the wider support network has started the gearing up for that. And you're like, yeah, you're going to make it. You've got this far. Your final bits, and that final step hasn't done it. Yeah. And then a lot of your life has been devoted to this, and you've really focused in, and and you're saying this is a little bit of the problem with
to be in.
Yeah. And it's a little bit of the problem with the academy structure, right? That is
absolutely
what the academy is designed to do. Is to do that.
It's brutal. I will 100% agree. Academy system is more brutal on the people participating than the college system of America, and maybe that's what's the real upside of the American system.
I mean, if the American system was...
but it's not even changing. It's not even like that because it's this weird thing, because high school students are allowed to earn money and were allowed to get endorsements and weren't allowed to. So we had this weird situation where in America, the most prized players were obviously NBA for basketball, and second was high school, then college. Because most people who were really good in high school were just like, all right, we're just going to spend that 1 year in college that we're forced to and leave. We're not going to stick around in college. Why would we?
Yeah.
If we get injured in college and lose everything, why would you? It's such a big risk.
Exactly. Or for whatever reason have a bad season that happened to come the second year in college, right? Or third year in college.
Yeah.
Just for whatever reason, things don't go well and things, and suddenly these things can be quite flighty, and the talent scouts go, oh, maybe he didn't have it, but if you got into the NBA first, you'd be given a couple of seasons, be like, oh, you're young, you're getting there, and if it didn't work out, you probably still got 2 or 3 seasons at reasonable pay before that happened. You're going to make a lot more money.
Your minimum wage in the NBA is $700K a year.
Yeah.
At the bare minimum, you're earning $700K a year.
Yeah.
If you're drafted.
Yeah, and so if you get drafted young, you're going to get given a few years at that.
It's hard to be drafted, though. There's only 2 rounds. It's not like the football draft where there's 7 rounds.
Yeah. Good point.
So it is more lucrative. It's also it's more lucrative, but it's also because it's more exclusive.
Yeah.
And more difficult. So there's no perfect system, absolutely, but there's definitely issues with the college sports system. Like I had this discussion with an American when I was in Washington a few years ago, and we were just talking. He was a bartender, and he was like, "I reckon America's gonna one day win the World Cup." And I told him, like, there's no way America will win a World Cup when your main league doesn't have relegation or promotion. And because you guys don't worry about, if you guys don't know what it's like to die, lose everything, play for the team that if you get relegated, you lose everything. You might not find another team in the top league again. You might have to play in a lower league, and that loss of earnings and everything. So you don't play with that fear. And so, the high wire artist who doesn't have a net under him is more respected than the high wire artist who does.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
He kind of was like, and the second part is that academies produce better athletes than the college system. And this is where we got into it. But I think in the end he was like, okay, maybe you're right. But this is it. We're more to come on college sport. We definitely said there was going to be more to come when we talked about this a few years ago, and it's all playing out. And we'll probably not know what's really going to happen for another 5 or 6 years, and then it'll change again.
Yeah, exactly.
And now, next up, we've also had a podcast about this. But Kansas City Chiefs win the Super Bowl, epic match.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes becomes a 2-time MVP and a 2-time Super Bowl winner, probably a future Hall of Famer. Let's just ignore how they've been playing this season, but can't take anything away from them. They're still in the play. They've made it to the playoffs, so that's that. And once you're in the playoffs, anything's possible. But the Chiefs are proving more and more that they're the team of the 2020s for the NFL. So we definitely should be keeping an eye on them this season.
Yeah.
Number 8, the Nuggets win the NBA. One of the reasons I really want to focus on this one is the Nuggets have built a team. Other than Joke, they didn't get any free agent superstars. This is Jamal Murray and Joker. Both are drafted. Both have developed together, and they've just built with role players. This is not a super team, but it's a super team. And I see this team potentially building a dynasty. If the Golden State Warriors were the team of the 2010s, the Denver Nuggets are probably my pick to be the team of the 2020s. Because, let's face it, the Phoenix Suns will never win a championship. As much as it hurts me to say, this is the first, the Denver Nuggets are the first team from the Mountain Conference to win. Not the Suns, not the Utah Jazz, two teams that have come so close and have a better postseason record. But it's the Denver Nuggets. So well done to them, well done to Joker. Obviously the best player in the world.
Yeah.
No question. Number 9. I don't know if this is a highlight or a low light, but Borussia Dortmund choking on the last day of the Bundesliga. They just needed to draw.
Yeah, it's just...
My initial thought was, why Nuremberg? Why'd you beat them? And then I thought, no, Nuremberg doesn't owe them a win.
Exactly.
Borussia Dortmund has to go and grab that championship if they want to lift the trophy, and they didn't. And obviously Bayern Munich won again. 11 in a row. Bayern's performances in Europe show they're a great side, and they head and shoulders above every other team in Germany.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens this season. Hint, hint. You can't predict the future, but Leverkusen are not going to win the Bundesliga. That is all I predict. And I don't know if Borussia Dortmund will either.
No, look, my kids have already called it that Bayern's going to win just because Leverkusen's not going to win. They can't win, so they'll choke it as well. So.
Yep, that's pretty much how I think. Number 10, as much as it hurts me to say it, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
This was the year of the blonde striker, Manchester City. What a season they had.
Yeah.
It might be taken off them, depending on how things work out. But until that happens, they won the treble.
Yeah. Can they have
If it
last year
gets
taken
taken
off
off them, I will crack up laughing, because that means Manchester United got an FA Cup as well out of it last season. Thoroughly undeserved.
Can they have last season taken off them? I thought that's outside the thing, or is it just still up for grabs?
I think it might be anything post 2010 for what they're. Which is why potentially they could lose the Aguero.
Yeah, I knew they could lose Aguero,
which is like sad, because I think that's like one of the great, incredible moments of English football. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Look, City won. I'm a United fan, but even I was like, "Oh, like that's incredible!" Like after this one, I was like, "Wow, like what an incredible thing that was when it happened." The Aguero moment means Fergie gets another Premiership title. Watford get to get an FA Cup. So many things would happen there. There'd be a bunch for Liverpool, a bunch for United again. Like Mourinho would have won one at United. Solskjaer would have won 2 at United. It's so weird.
It is.
And obviously Klopp would have won 3 probably.
Yeah.
So, and Arsenal would have won last season.
No.
We don't know what's going to happen, but
we don't know what's going to happen.
We can laugh about potential outcomes, but I think Manchester City winning the treble, that was incredible. The players, at least, they've got their trophies. That shouldn't be taken off them.
No.
They weren't part of the cheating, so I think this. Basically everything post the Roberto Mancini era, because he was being paid by allegedly being paid by an Abu Dhabi marketing company $1 million a year to fly in there for one day and fly back.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
That's a bit crazy.
Yeah, so a bunch of stuff like that.
Yeah. That's we need to get out. It's just.
Yeah. It's not good. It's not. No. There's a lot of allegations against Manchester City. Anything is possible. We don't know what will happen. And when I say that you get these trophies given to that might not even happen. They might just go, there is no champions. They're officially removed, but there's no champions for these years that they won.
Yeah, no
which is really weird as well.
Yeah.
Huh?
Be no official champions, right? Like,
yeah.
We take the trophy off you, but we don't change the table. Like, so
yes.
They won, but they didn't win. Well, they didn't win, but they did win.
So, yeah. Nobody's happy with that.
No.
Outcome. But yeah, I'll take any extra championships in this era of Manchester United that they're willing to give me. Now, finally, this might be the most important of all. I had forgotten about this, maybe because I wanted to, but Real Madrid and Barcelona, we should say, won their case against UEFA for the Super League, so they cannot stand in the way. Obviously, Real Madrid can't force clubs to go, and I think it's become the Premier League clubs will not go. They've signed to extra regulations so that if they do, the Premier League will literally whip them. And the other Super League clubs, I don't know. The Italian clubs maybe would be looking to join. I don't think the German clubs are looking to join. And maybe PSG, now that the World Cup in Qatar is already over, might be a bit more friendly to that offer. But once again, one of the weird things about when they were forming the Super League is apparently when Florentino Perez pulled the trigger, he was absolutely shocked that all 6 of the Premier League clubs he called agreed to join him.
Right, yeah.
Because he effectively thought, why would they need to? They're already in the Super League. Like, and if you think about it, yeah, sort of, right? Like, the Premier League's earnings absolutely dwarf every other league in Europe. And look, Bournemouth are able to spend more money on players than any club in Europe other than PSG, Bayern Munich, and Real Madrid. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Not even Barcelona. Like, Barcelona, I don't care how many levers they think they have left. They can't compete financially with Bournemouth.
No.
And maybe that's also Barca's fault, not necessarily...
Yeah. There's a little bit of Barca fault in there, right? I think, like...
Yeah, definitely lots of Barca fault. But Real Madrid, arguably the best-run club in the world. Like, no question. Bayern Munich, arguably the second-best club run in the world.
Yeah.
Yep. We can probably very easily agree with that. And number 3, PSG, owned by Qatar. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 clubs that can compete with Bournemouth outside of the Premier League.
Which is just crazy.
When it comes to money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and
the whole thing is just crazy. So you sort of understood, when you think about it from that way, you can understand why European clubs would want to form together. To try and bring some of that parity. Because, as you say, the EPL is basically its own Super League, as it is.
Yeah, and I specifically picked Bournemouth to just point out, like, Bournemouth were playing in the Championship 2 seasons ago.
Yeah.
Just as a thing. And Bournemouth are not a big club in England. Like, they have a 10,000 people stadium, or 15,000 people stadium now.
Pretty small, yeah.
That's it. But they maximize their revenue massively. This is why the billionaire who bought them, whose name escapes me, he's another American, was like, yeah, this is a bargain. $250 million to buy Bournemouth. I'd have to spend $1 billion to buy an MLS franchise. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, why would you ever buy an MLS franchise when you could own Bournemouth?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is why Tom Brady invested in Birmingham City. Like, you know, even a championship club is a better deal for your bang for your buck than a MLS club. The championship, I believe, is the 5th most lucrative league in Europe.
I wouldn't be surprised with that. Well, maybe my surprise is that it's the 5th and not higher up, really. I know that the ones above it will be ones, Bundesliga, League One,
Bundesliga, La Liga,
Serie A.
Serie A. That's it. Like, it's bigger than Ligue 1, which nobody's surprised to hear that.
No.
And it's competing with Serie A.
It
might actually be more lucrative than Serie A, to be fair.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If you take into account parachute payments, monies, and all that.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking, like, I'm a little surprised not, because those other ones, like, they'll have, the top of their ones would be much more, a lot of money thrown around, but across the whole league, like, I guess it evens out the top ends of those leagues, European leagues sort of drag it up enough that you get above, but like, the championship's a big league.
Yeah, basically I think La Liga is up ahead of the championship purely because, you know, they get 4 Champions League spots every year, so, you know,
there's that
their club, that exposure.
The top half, the top bits of each of those leagues are able to drag the average up high enough that or the totals up high enough to beat the championship.
Yeah. But this is the situation in Europe. The Super League, for some form, is potentially coming with probably UEFA endorsement. I've seen things online. I don't know how real they are, quote unquote, that the Super League will be 2 divisions, potentially expanding to 4 based on coefficients. I'm just like, did they listen to our podcast? And why don't they just hire me?
Yeah, come on.
They're just following my idea.
They should stop the just ripping us off and just hire us, man. Come on.
But
we know you're listening.
But they're saying that the clubs will continue to play in their home leagues. This will just be another league they play in the midweek.
All right.
And it'll be a 10-person league, or it'll be conferences, and there will be relegation, promotion, and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, okay, I'll believe it when I see it, and apparently performances in the Champions League and coefficients are what's going to depend on whether you get to continue in the league or whether you get promoted into the league. Which I'm just so like, that's also roughly what I used.
Yeah.
So while it's not fully a top-down pyramid, it's a parallel pyramid. So it would just be like another set of games. You just wouldn't be playing the Champions League anymore. You'd be playing in the Super League.
All right.
Whereas the Champions League would be the next of the best. So you're effectively making a fourth competition, but the fourth competition's an actual league rather than... Which is also not that different to the Swiss system, so I don't know what exactly they're proposing that makes it more different other than adding more games.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I think, looking here, there's a league, and then a league stage, then a knockout stage as well, and...
Yeah. And it's like, it sounds like a lot like the Champions League. What exactly are you proposing that's too different from...
Yeah. The Champions League without the UK leagues and clubs?
Yeah. But, it's just difficult to understand what the goal would be without the UK clubs in your Super League.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people follow a Premier League club, and a lot of that is language, but a lot of that's also history, and they took the best advantage of the 90s, basically, when the internet came around.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're living in the fruits of that era, but we'll probably know more. I mean, Real Madrid are not dropping the Super League. So it seems.
No.
Barcelona need the Super League desperately, and I think if it comes around, Atletico are sitting there going, no comment. So I think we know where they stand on the Super League.
Yeah.
And probably the Italian clubs, once again, they're probably all keen to join because, that's money that they desperately need.
Yeah, exactly.
But, a league of Real, Barca, Atletico, and AC Milan, Inter, and Juventus, I'm like, sure, it's cool, but that's... Who else have you got at that point? You can't have a league with 6 teams.
No. I mean,
at least the original Super League with 12, you sit there going, that's a league. Like, that's a very competitive league as well.
Yeah. I mean, this is sort of suggesting a 64 team. Like, it is the Champions League. That's what they're suggesting. Like,
yes.
I don't know. Like, how is this other than the Champions League? But if you have like the group stage longer and bigger.
Yes.
And the knockout stage,
which is basically a more expanded version of the Swiss model.
Yeah.
But and
we'll see if it ever really gets off the ground, I guess. I mean, the proof will be in them actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't put anything past Florentino Perez. He's probably the greatest ever club president that Real Madrid's ever had, and maybe any club's ever had. And he's obviously managed to accomplish a lot in his 2 spells as Real Madrid president. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have something called a Super League at some point. I don't know how successful it'll be. And I don't know how it will plan out. but something's coming. I can't say that there won't be a Super League. Like I can't, now I'm just like there clearly is gonna be a Super League. Like he's one of, you didn't go through all that court case stuff and win to not go through with it. That would be really weird.
That would be really weird. Like he's gonna do something. Say the question is who's going to be playing in it, and because you say it's going to be to be a replacement to the Champions League, so they have to be offering more money to clubs than what the clubs get from participating in the Champions League at some point. So, yeah, that will be interesting to see. Like you say, the Italian clubs would be interested, but if it's replacing just the Champions League, are they going to feel like they're going to get more money than currently? Because they're, especially with now the Champions League and the Europa and the Conference League, there's more European money and exposure happening. The whole extra set of games there. So, is the Super League going to offer more to Italian clubs, to German clubs, to French clubs, like to the rest of Europe? Like, I guess there may be
clubs other than PSG.
Other than PSG. And German clubs other than Bayern Munich, or Borussia Dortmund. Are they just going to get the teams that feel they're not going to be making regular Champions League and be like, we'll go play in the Super League then instead? So.
Yeah. It's a really weird situation. So, I mean, I did think that they were going to win their court case because the whole illegal monopoly argument, like I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That seems like an argument that'll win.
Yeah.
And because football is a business at the end of the day, and they're rightfully claiming that this organization is preventing us from conducting our business fairly.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not saying UEFA are angels. I'm not thinking that there plenty of things are wrong with football right now, and UEFA clearly didn't learn from that Super League experience and still are not really solving the main issues with football. And I'll be blunt, I think both UEFA and the Super League crowd are not solving the main issues with football, which is football is freaking expensive.
Yeah. And
like, unless your parents are like our level, we're upper middle class.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to watch football at home, and if you're a kid, you're not going to the pub to watch football. Exactly. So where are you gonna watch football? You're either gonna pirate it, maybe, or watch Netflix,
watch something else,
or play video games.
Yeah, Twitch.
Well,
you're gonna get your entertainment from Twitch.
YouTube is free.
And YouTube, yeah. So that is, you say, that's esports. That's what people are going to be watching, and that's what they care about, because that's what they can watch.
Yes, I mean, putting aside what other sports, live events they're watching, but, we've had this conversation. Football's competing for everything that takes your attention away.
Yeah.
For recreationally. So Netflix, TV, video games, dare I say it, books.
No, it's still a thing, yeah.
And all these other things that people can do with their free time.
Yeah.
Like, I know cricket's going to be around because despite hundreds of years of terrible administration, it's still around.
Yeah.
It's literally been done badly for 150 plus years, and it's still around.
Yeah, you're very right. It's like cricket can't die, because if it was going to die, it would have done so.
It would have died
already.
A long time ago.
A long time ago, like the way it is run.
We might be playing T6 or T2s, but it'll be around in some form. And we're all just going to watch it in the background while playing video games or reading a book. That's how we all watch cricket.
Very true.
So that's always going to be around. Yeah. I think it feels that similar space as baseball. But I think being so unaffordable for sports like basketball, football, NFL, dare I say it, rugby, and rugby league, that's their number one thing. You want to know why kids are playing more basketball than football? It's cheaper to get an NBA pass than a Sky Sports subscription.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
Just right there. It's easier to get a pirated stream of an NBA game. Let's just address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Than it is to get a pirated stream of a rugby game.
Yeah.
Because nobody pirates rugby.
Exactly. The other thing is going to, whilst it's a bit, we're talking about European football, it's priced out going to a game, but in New Zealand, going to the Breakers game is cheaper and more entertaining than going to the Blues or going to, the Auckland Rugby, an NPC game. Like, it is not entertaining going to those games, unless because it's maybe a semi-final or final for the Blues, then it might start there. But like just a regular season Breakers game, even in a season where the Breakers aren't doing well, is so much more entertaining. And you get so much more out of it.
Parity. Yeah. There is so much parity in the NBL. Like, it's a league that's probably dying because of the NBA pass and the fact that the NBA is so much more available.
Yeah.
But the NBL is a good league to watch. The teams are all evenly matched. The rule set is designed to be entertaining. And as you say, like, the game's atmosphere is great. Like, going to Breakers games, going to Wildcats games, Kings games, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting that at rugby games in a lot of places. And I hope it's not going to happen, but eventually if Breakers games or NBL game, I don't know, I think while the NBA is around, NBL games can't afford to price your punters out.
No.
So that's that.
I mean, the Breakers have done well at not pricing people out of scene. Yes. Like, throughout their entire existence. I mean, I've watched live games when they were the worst of the worst, and I've watched live games when they were at their high, and I've watched live games more recently when they're good but sometimes bad. I don't go very often, but I do go, and they have made a big move of not pricing people out. Like, they left the North Shore Event Centre and moved pretty much all. I don't think they play there anymore. They're all at Spark Arena downtown because they didn't want to. Their main reason was that they didn't want to have to price people out. Like, they sold out too quickly at the North Shore Event Centre. Like, this is our spiritual home, but there's not enough seats. Like, there's too many people. So
yeah. Also, why they had to move from Trust Arena in West Auckland.
Yeah, it was like supply and demand. Like, either these become unaffordable because we're not adding capacity, or we add capacity, so we go to the bigger one. That's where we go. And we move to where we can always have seats available, basically. Seems to be their philosophy. Is like, we want to not be priced reasonably and just add more capacity in so that people can always come to our games, which is a great way for them to be. And still makes them money, clearly, because they're a very profitable site, and they always have sell out home crowds just about. Like, there's always such a great
them and the Wildcats.
Yeah. Which
like
it's always
the two big
teams.
Yeah. So there is a thing there. You want people to get into sport or get into becoming sports fans. They gotta be able to go watch these games, and they're clearly playing basketball because it's easier to set up in high schools and until puberty, it's kind of even to play basketball. You can still get big kids in your tweens and whatnot, but basketball. And because we've had the small ball revolution, people of all sizes kind of think they can be a basketball player.
Yeah.
Growing up, of some level.
Yeah.
Like, you can at least show off your basketball skills to impress girls.
Or guys.
on the street. You don't actually or guys for that matter.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna do that with rugby, you need to find at least 7 other people. And
probably that's not even enough, really. I mean,
yes.
and
then find another group of 7 people to play against.
Exactly. So you can do little fake, sidestep around someone with the handouts, but everybody just looks at you like, okay.
What are you doing? But if you're like, you can by yourself, like be a shooter, do some middies. You can dunk. You're a stud.
Yeah, exactly.
But you can do all of that by yourself.
Even just a step back fadeaway shot, layup straight in. You're just like, yeah, and everybody will be like, yeah, you're awesome.
Yeah, even if you just do a layup, right?
Yeah.
The simplest shot in basketball, it looks sort of cool. You can at least, play around and be like, oh yeah, I'm just practicing my layups, practicing my thing,
Yeah.
And you can look cool doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't look cool practicing your scrumming or rucking. Or even practicing your kicking, right?
No, yeah.
Place kicking.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing about soccer football, because, you can at least play kippy-uppies and, like, do little dribbles and just pass the ball along with your friends, and, like, you can play that sort of stuff, and it's very difficult with sports like NFL, rugby, and rugby league to do that sort of Aussie, maybe less Aussie rules, because you can just have a kickabout without putting a lot of prep and effort into it. And by the way, nobody's impressed by your cricket skills, because nobody in the world other than maybe Don Bradman and Wasim Akram and Gary Sobers has ever been good at cricket, right?
Yeah.
Like those 3?
Yeah, no, I'd give you those 3.
Completed the game.
But yeah, I'd give you those 3 completed the game. They clocked the game.
Like everybody else, you're like, are they good? Are they really that good? Maybe WG Grace.
Maybe, yeah.
But the basketball is just such an easy sport to do, and like soccer will obviously not die in that way, because people are always going to kick a can around on the street, or
well, the thing is,
do all that.
The thing is that, especially say less so this side of the world, but in Europe, what happens is that people just go find a so-called smaller team, right? One they can afford to watch and support. So, which a little bit is why the English system works so well. There's enough people keen on it that they just go, I can't afford to go watch Manchester United or City or Arsenal or whoever. So they find a team they can, and they enjoy that. So
and there's something like 50 tiers in the English league system. So
yeah, once you get right down, it's crazy.
8,000. There's over 8,000 registered football clubs. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
So football, I'm not saying will die in the same way, but people can't relate to you. By the way, I will give another sporting lowlight just before we end. It also happened on the day on the New Year's Eve. This is related to this whole unrelatability and like losing touch with the fans. So the current owner of the Carolina Panthers literally filmed throwing a drink while he was at the Jacksonville Jaguars stadium. So he's not even at his own stadium. He's a guest going to the owner's box at the other stadium. There's a film of him throwing a drink at a Jaguars fan.
What? That is crazy.
Now, let's just put it out there. He's worth $20 billion. He's been fined $300,000.
Yeah.
And he didn't even apologize in his statement. He just said, I regret what I did. Which is not an apology, by the way.
No, that's very much not an apology. I mean, that's less of an apology than what normally, not in this, I mean, it's hard to roll this apology out in this circumstance, but the I'm sorry you took offense is the normal sort of lines of a non-apology apology. And this is worse than that.
This is worse than that, because at least you can say, I'm deeply ashamed, I shouldn't have done what I did, I'm really sorry. Like, we can accept
Yeah.
Spur of the moment shit happens. He's still human, that happens. But to be blatantly no. So the NFL's own rules say owners have to be a standard above.
Yeah.
So what would happen to a fan if they threw a drink at somebody else? Don't matter what the other person may have said to them. All can see is they've thrown a drink at somebody. Security will drag them out. They don't care what the other person said.
No, they'll be dragging you out.
If they can prove the other person has said something objectionable, they'll take that guy out too.
Yeah.
But you're gonna be dragged out, and you will be banned for life.
Yeah, exactly.
From attending games in the NFL. There's no question, right? What would happen to a player if they get even when they make an egregious play on the field, they get fined 10% of their weekly earnings?
Yeah.
You're fining him $300,000. That's literally the equivalent of if you were worth $1 million being fined $14. I would be literally throwing drinks at everybody I hated if all it cost me was a $14 fine.
You'd throw the drink and then you just count out $14.
I'd just be money, more drinks, keep them coming. That's basically the cost of a beer anyway at a sporting event.
Was it to say? It just means my drinks are double price. Thank you, man.
Okay, more money. This is legal, by the way.
Yeah. It's crazy. It's just a crazy thing to have happened and to think about. It's just...
So, the people at the top who own our sports teams or run our sports teams, basically, that's how it's hard not to think that this is not just emblematic of the NFL, but every sport where your teams are owned by billionaires.
Yeah.
They're just not nobody's as bad as this. I'm not saying that.
No.
But the whole losing touch and not understanding understanding their fans and what and their concerns, really not giving a crap about it. It's hard to not feel that that's true across the board, or really they're incapable of understanding because their lives are too different.
Yeah, well, exactly. It's just something that doesn't really
because unironically, Fiorentina Perez goes, we should just make football shorter because people only pay attention for X amounts of time. And you go, have you tried making it cheaper?
Yeah.
To get people in?
Yeah. How about cheaper? How about you don't make as much money? How about that?
Yes.
That's a novel idea.
And we all know, you and I are the last generation probably of people who are really gonna pirate these expensive football games if we were gonna do it, because we grew up having it affordable and then not affordable for a while, and now we can afford it again because we're grown-ups. But technically,
as you say, we're upper middle class. We're
upper middle class. Whereas if you are not in that situation, there's no reason, if you're for a kid of somebody who doesn't have Sky Sports at home, only watches sports at the pub, doesn't watch it at home, why would their kids get into football or any sport?
Yeah, exactly.
They can just, like I said, you can watch lots of great shows on Netflix for cheaper, and maybe buy comics or books or play video games.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Is you get to teenagehood, so when you're young, you just do whatever. At primary school, they just do whatever. They'll kick a ball around it.
Yes.
And at lunchtime, and play football, and they may have heard of some names, so that's who they're being. But it doesn't really register about what's happening or why or what's the story behind it. That's the sort of thing that develops in teenage years. And in teenage years, if they can't watch it, they're not going to care. They're going to care about the things they can engage with. And maybe if they're super good at football and they're being really good and things, then they'll have the chance to, that becomes a thing they're engaging with, and they'll find ways to engage with it more. But they're not super good. It was just a thing they did at lunchtime, kicking it around, and then suddenly something else comes along, basketball comes along or else, that's what they're going to be engaging with then. And if that happens to be esports, then they're going to start talking about that, and they'll play Fortnite or they'll play Call of Duty or whatever happens to be
Or,
things. Yeah.
play a sport that's not on TV, like handball or hacky sack.
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean, it depends a bit on the schools they're at and what programs that's happening and what's there. That's what I mean. It could be anything, but they're not going to be engaged in what they can consume from an entertainment point of view is what they will be engaged in. So they may do things at school, but they're not going to be engaged. It's not going to be something that then once they've left school they're going to continue. The thing that they're engaging with, the entertainment they have access to, is what they will engage with once they've left school. Once they actually have money, once they've got a job, and they can sink money into something, they're going to do it to what they were engaging in when they were a teenager. What was happening at school, what was everybody talking about. That's the thing. If they come from families that can't afford, expensive Sky to watch rugby or football or whatever, that's not what they're going to be engaging with when they get into their 20s and have left school, left university, and getting jobs and starting to be like, oh, we've got disposable income we can put into it. They're going to be putting into whatever it was that they were engaging in. And that's what's going to be affordable for them.
Yeah. So there's a situation coming where people are going to be lucky if their sport is being pirated.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because at least that means you're relevant.
Yeah, exactly. People
are willing to break the law to consume what you're producing.
Exactly. And I know we've in the past discussed this as well. There's always going to be pirating. Trying to fight that is pointless. You can make sure that it's not, rampant such that you can't compete with it. But at the same point, there's no point spending time trying to stamp it out. You need to look at what the reasons are people are going there. And the reason will be 100% affordable.
Yeah, and or unavailability.
Or unavailability, accessibility.
Those are the two reasons. Look, ultimately, pirating your sport is not a negative. It's only going to give you positives. Like, in the end, those people who are pirating were not going to be able to afford what you're offering, or it wasn't available to them in the first place.
Yeah.
Right? So they weren't going to pay for it. So you're not losing customers.
No.
B, how many people do we know that started off pirating and then went and actually started paying for stuff?
Yeah.
Because it got easier. Because you could afford it.
Exactly. And that's the thing of it, right? Is you look at it and go, why are they pirating this? They can't afford. If it's affordability, you look at it and go, is it rampant? Therefore, we must have priced ourselves too high. We need to bring it down, that more people can engage in it, and that will push piracy down, and you'll make the money back just by having bigger numbers. Yeah. Or if it's accessibility, you need to look at it and go, well, there's actually demand for that product. Maybe we should be providing that in our service.
Yeah. And it's not like people aren't already using VPNs.
Yeah, exactly.
To avoid paying as much. And look, this is not just a sports problem, it is a streaming and other entertainment problem, and we can go into it. But that was like the low light I wanted to bring up, because it's sort of related to the Super League thing and how it really kind of personifies so much about what is wrong with sport.
Yes.
A lot of sport, ironically not cricket, because it doesn't make money. Other than the IPL.
Yeah. Other than the BCCI, it doesn't make money.
Yeah. But I think from a sporting perspective anyway, 2023 was an enjoyable year. I definitely have lots of highlights, and I feel like I'm no less enthusiastic about doing this podcast and following all the sports that I do. Even more sports I've added on since I've done this podcast. 2023 has just kept that going. No, so hopefully you all have had a similar experience and, enjoyed listening to us. And thanks everyone who has.
Yes, definitely.
And I think that's all we have time for today. Thanks very much for listening, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Catch you next time.
Well, that is the end. Thanks for listening all the way through.
If you liked what you heard, we have even more. Find 642 Discord and a Buy Me a Coffee.
Pretty sure it's Buy Me a Beer.
Oh yeah, buy me a beer on buymeacoffee.com.
In both these places, you can talk to us, and we may even listen, especially if you do buy a said beer or coffee. I might still be confused.
Yes, we're easily bribed. All links are in the show notes below.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
This is on YouTube.